Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I have an amazing video for you guys today. Here is an article from fcgate.com. This is a publication from San Francisco, and check this out. Frustrated buyers in the Bay Area housing market buying second homes first. So this is a great article, and it outlines some of the frustration that we're seeing across the country, especially when people live in very expensive cities. So basically the gist of this article, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on it to see if you guys think it's a good idea. But basically the gist is that this person, the person that they interviewed, he is a real estate agent living in San Francisco, and he rents an apartment there. And he said that it's almost impossible to afford a house in San Francisco because it is so expensive. So this person went ahead and bought a second home in Las Vegas, right, where it was a lot more affordable. So then he's basically paying rent in one place and then buying a second home somewhere else, because the idea is that they believe, a lot of people believe, and I believe this, is that investment is a great investment, and it's a great way for you to build wealth. Unfortunately, sometimes when you live in certain markets, you just get priced out. But I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this for anybody who really is thinking about this. Now let's jump into this quote. As prices started going up and up in the Bay Area, it was becoming increasingly difficult for individuals to buy a home. We started counseling them that a great strategy would be to start purchasing properties out of the state or in more affordable parts of the state instead to at least get in the market so they can begin building equity. And once they had enough equity built in that property, transfer that into their Bay Area property. Now that sounds like a good idea, right? So you basically, you go ahead, you buy something for really cheap, say in Las Vegas. Say you spend, $250,000. You know the down payment's gonna not be that much, and then wait for that property to rise, and then you build that equity. And if you are paying the mortgage, or if you have renters paying the mortgage for you, basically it's kind of paying for itself. And then at one point you could then sell that property and then have enough down payment to jump into a property in a more expensive area like in San Francisco. Now that sounds great, right? Sounds like a great idea, but it comes with a lot of risk, in my opinion. Why? Because either if you have a job where you can not rent out your property, like the other property somewhere else, and you just basically you maintain it, right? And that also comes with risk, right? Because you're not there, things can happen, you got floods, whatever it is, right? You have to take care of that house. Now if you have renters, you always have problems with renters, right? It's better to be close. I believe that if you're gonna have a rental property, you should at least be able to drive to that rental property whenever you need. Because if you're going to have to rely on a handyman to have to fix everything, every time like a pipe breaks, you're gonna be losing a lot of money. It is better, like if you do own a property, if you do a lot of the things yourself, right? If you kind of become the handyman, or if not, you oversee the operation so you make sure you don't get ripped off. What ends up happening is, if you are out of the state, and let's just say this guy over here living in San Francisco, busy guy, has a busy job, he's not going to be able to like fly to Las Vegas to see if his house is okay, right? So what ends up happening is you end up calling, like, say, a handyman or a plumber, and what do you think they're gonna tell you, right? If a plumber picks up the phone and knows that you're in another state, in another city, and like basically you got a leak in the house, and they're gonna basically tell you whatever, right? They're gonna say, oh, you gotta change this, you gotta change that, blah, blah, blah. Here, it's, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Versus if you can drive to your property, see the problem, and then bring in the help, then you could be like, hey, well, what's going on here? They're not gonna rip you off as much as they would if you're not there to see it. So that becomes, it's I know to a lot of people are like, oh, who cares, but it is a big deal. It is a big deal because remember, this property is your investment, and if you're dishing out money, and you're losing money basically, because that's gonna come out of your pocket, So you don't, to me, I've seen some horror stories when it comes to buying properties very far away. The best situation is if you are going to buy somewhere else, make sure that at least you have family there that can help you, right? And even then, it's a pain in the ass for them. Like, could you imagine calling your family member, your brother, your dad or something, your mom or your sister, be like, hey, can you go check out my apartment? My tenant said there's a leak. And, they're going to be like, dude, I've got my own life. It's not like I'm getting paid to go check your apartment, right? Now, I know depending on what type of family you have, they're going to be a lot nicer. But just remember, you're asking a lot for people to help take care of your property. So again, and getting on an airplane to go check out stuff, that costs money. You imagine you have to fly somewhere. Now you have to get a hotel. You got to rent a car. You see, I get what this guy is saying, and this is kind of like, this is almost like, to me, almost like a fairy tale kind of thing. Like, oh, you can't afford the city, well then go buy somewhere else and then use it as a rental property and then build your wealth. Yeah, that sounds great, like on paper, but I think when you're actually like living it, and you might get lucky and get some good tenants, but then if you have good tenants, guess what? Good tenants tend to be responsible people, which eventually are going to jump into home ownership. So, if you do eventually have good tenants, then they're not going to be there that long, right? And that's kind of like the issue there, right? A lot of people that rent, they might be a little wishy-washy. That's another thing, is why people like to have a rental company kind of oversee the properties. Now you can do that, right? So you hire a company, but guess what? The company doesn't do these things for free, right? And so if you hire a management company to take care of your property, and you do have a problem with the property, say like a leak, well now, the management company is in on it too, right? So they have their plumbers that they're gonna send over there, and they're basically going to give you the most expensive bill ever, right? Because that's how they make their money. That's how the plumber's gonna be like, hey, we gotta change this little pipe right here. Well, the management company is gonna say, no, change everything. Like, make it better. Like, we need to up the price on this, because they get a little commission, probably, under the table kind of stuff. But that's and for liability purposes too. Versus, if I look at something, I've had situations in my own home where, I had like a little leak, and I brought in a guy, and the guy's like, oh, we gotta rip up this and that and blah blah blah. And then I brought in another guy, and he kind of gave me a totally different diagnostics for the problem. And then I kind of looked at it and I said, man, it's not even that big of a deal, and I ended up not really, I ended up fixing it like in a very simple way, because I understood the problem, right? So you're gonna lose that if you have a property somewhere else, because like a house is it's like it shifts, it moves, it deteriorates. So you have to kind of be there and to make sure that everything is good. So I'm not 100% with this technique, but if it works for you guys, good. Now there are situations, right, where you can buy an apartment in, like, say, South Beach or something, or in a cool little area, not so expensive, and that apartment actually, you're gonna end up paying a very high HOA, but there is going to be like taken care of, right? So for those people, you buy a nice little apartment in Seattle or something, like a 1-bedroom, that is nice, and I like that. But you gotta really check those HOAs, because some of those HOAs, they could be like $800-900 a month, $1,200 a month, like they could be astronomically expensive. So that's something, they take care of it, and you don't have to worry about anything for the most part, but as a whole, you will be paying high HOAs, versus a house. Technically in many places you could get away from paying an HOA, but it is a house and you do have to take care of it. So again, I want to kind of hear your thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a good investment opportunity to like buy somewhere that is not where you live, just to get a more affordable home? Or do you think it's kind of risky? Now, if I have a feeling, though, this is my feeling, is that if you have experienced it, you're probably gonna say it's not worth it. But if you haven't experienced it, then I have a feeling that you're gonna say, hey, I would totally try that. And that's two totally different scenarios. And And like I've heard stories, like I always dream, like, you know, like whenever me and my wife talk about this, or me and my friends, we're always thinking, hey, let's go in on a house somewhere else in a very cool place, whatever, you know. And I think, man, that kind of sounds like a nightmare, because I've talked to people that have done that and they couldn't wait to get out of that situation, right? As soon as the market went up a little bit, they were like, I'm selling this house. And for that reason is because, you know, on day one, it sounded like a great idea, but 2 years later, it turned into like a sort of awful idea. And you know, I kind of agree. I'm on that camp. I'm on that camp that most likely doesn't want to take that risk and that responsibility. I'm buying my second house, you know, a few miles from where I live. I think that's a better idea. And I'd rather get a small place, because my area is not that expensive as it is. So I kind of want to rather do that, where I can drive to it, I could see it, I could, you know, check up on it, you know, from time to time, make sure everything looks good. And I think it's sort of, for me, a better way to, you know, to take care of my investment. Now, if you want to read this article in full, I will have a link to this article down in the description below. Now, I just wanted to say to everyone who has been watching my videos and supporting my channel and leaving comments and likes, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. If this is your first time checking out my video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and go ahead and like and leave a comment. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.